Yo, what is up, guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, Dillian Whyte once again comes out and makes an absolute fool of himself. Essentially, Dillian Whyte is accusing Alexander Povetkin of faking his Rona case in order to give himself more time to prepare for the rematch. I'll actually read out exactly what Dillian Whyte said. He said the following: I personally don't think he's got COVID. I think he just needed more time to get ready because he took a lot of damage in the first fight. After the first fight, he took a lot of time off. Even though I got stopped, I went straight back to training and I got straight back on it. He then went on to say, I was just in my peak stage right now, so I can't just crash out and let it all die down. I've got to keep the engine warm and still train, but just not as hard. I keep the same intensity, but just not the volume. They wanted more time or whatever, more time for me. More time for me to learn and bond with my team and keep improving. We worked on a lot of stuff in the last camp, and that's only falling into place for this camp, so it's all good. Those are the words of Dillian Whyte. Essentially, well, he is accusing Povetkin of faking COVID in order to have more time to prepare for their rematch. And listen, man, Dillian Whyte in the UK gets so many passes for basically being an obnoxious clown. As far as I'm concerned, while I believe Dillian Whyte is a good fighter, and in my opinion he does actually have a pretty good resume, but in my opinion he talks far too much for a guy who's basically been knocked out against the two best guys he's fought. Obviously Anthony Joshua and Alexander Povetkin. Bear in mind, the version of Povetkin that Whyte fought is the worst Povetkin we've seen to date. Obviously 41 years old, past his best, and he's still knocked out Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte needs to stop talking, just get your head down and train. That's all Dillian Whyte needs to be focused on. You know? I mean, let's look at the first fight, the build up to the first fight. Dillian Whyte was talking about everything apart from Alexander Povetkin. He was talking about Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury non-stop. He was talking about the WBC. He was even talking about Anthony Joshua. But the person he wasn't focused on was Alexander Povetkin, and he got levelled. This is a guy who just won't learn his lesson, and this is a guy who somehow convinces the masses that he's this avoided heavyweight. Of course, before the Povetkin knockout loss, we heard all of this nonsense about Dillian Whyte's plight with the WBC, while conveniently leaving out key points in the WBC timeline which led to Dillian Whyte's situation in that moment. Also missing out on the fact that Dillian Whyte blatantly ducked Kubrat Pulev. His fight with Kubrat Pulev was ordered by the IBF for a final eliminator, and obviously the winner would have fought Anthony Joshua. But Dillian Whyte ducked that fight. Kubrat Pulev's team won the purse bids, and Dillian had to go to Bulgaria, and Dillian said no thanks. That's what happened. He categorically ducked Kubrat Pulev, and there's no way around that, and he used all the excuses under the sun in order to justify that duck. First, it was the judging in Bulgaria. That was one of the excuses. And one of the other excuses which people forget about was that Team White, Eddie Hearn, etc. actually doubted whether Team Pulev's money was real in regards to that purse bid which they won. So they had all the excuses under the sun to avoid Kubrat Pulev. So they ducked that fight. Of course, Dillian Whyte also ducked Anthony Joshua, a chance to avenge his only defeat in his career at that point, and the chance to fight for the unified heavyweight titles, but Dillian Whyte wanted no parts of it. So in essence, Dillian Whyte is a heavyweight who's had opportunities in the division, but he's not taken them, and that is on him because he's his own manager. You know, he's made mistakes, and he tries to paint it out like it's not his fault and that everybody's out to get him, it's politics, etc, etc. No, Dillian Whyte has been the architect of what's happened in his career to date in regards to not getting a title shot. Didn't want to fight a WBC eliminator against Luis Ortiz, didn't want to fight an IBF eliminator against Kubrat Pulev, and ducked a straight shot at Anthony Joshua. But somehow, this guy has convinced the boxing world that he's this most avoided heavyweight in the division, that he's the boogeyman. Complete nonsense. The guy's had his opportunities, but he's just not taken them. You know, the guy is far too stubborn, he talks too much, and he's extremely obnoxious and disrespectful. Alexander Povetkin's not going to mess around with Dillian Whyte. There's nothing to fear there. He knows he can beat Dillian Whyte. He knows he can knock him clean out. Povetkin's fought top competition his whole career. His resume's better than Dillian Whyte's. So come on now, let's pay Povetkin a little respect. Dillian seems to have a lot to say about the people who have knocked him out. You know, keep on trashing Anthony Joshua. Joshua sparked him, and now he's doing the same with Alexander Povetkin. Like I said, Dillian Whyte is extremely obnoxious, and he talks too much. After Deontay Wilder, listen, he's the second most annoying heavyweight in the world as far as I'm concerned. Coming out with complete ludicrous statements, ludicrous career decisions. But once again, he's another guy who refuses to take responsibility for his own decisions and career moves. It's always somebody else's fault with Dillian Whyte. He needs to get over it, just get over himself, and just train hard. The rematch is going to happen on the 30th of January, and you've got your chance to put it right, and he's got a great chance to do so. Just don't get distracted, keep your head down, and keep training. The Povetkin fight's going to be there, it's going to happen, you've just got to wait a few more weeks. You know, Dillian Whyte, man, I used to like Dillian Whyte quite a lot, but recently, the last year or so, I've really been put off by Dillian Whyte. You know, these comments in regards to Povetkin are absolutely ludicrous as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, it's the sort of thing I expect from Dillian Whyte these days, fastly becoming one of the most annoying guys in the heavyweight division. Having said that, though, I'm not a big fan of any of these major heavyweights. You know, my favourite heavyweights are the cruiserweights who have moved up. Michael Hunter, Alexander Usyk, even Murat Gassiev. These are my favourite heavyweights right now, believe it or not, at the top level. So yeah, it is what it is, man. Dillian's going to be Dillian. I just think the guy, you know, he talks too much as far as I'm concerned. He talks too much. And, you know, that was a reason, in my opinion, he went into that first fight with Povetkin overlooking him, because I felt he was overlooking him. I was talking about it before that first fight. To me, it seemed like Dillian Whyte was talking about everything other than Povetkin, who, despite being old and past his best, is still very dangerous, and Dillian Whyte paid the price by getting knocked out. So there we go. Dillian Whyte, it is what it is. I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts. Do you think I'm off on this one? Do you believe there is some truth to what Dillian Whyte is saying? Or like me, do you believe Dillian is just talking for the sake of talking? There are a lot of people like that in this world, by the way. A lot of people like to talk for the sake of talking. But yeah, share your thoughts below. And also, by the way, lads, thank you very much for the support in the last video. The Kell Brook video got really good interactions, so I appreciate that. If you've not checked it out, click on my channel. It's my previous video to this one, The Curious Case of Kell Brook, the biggest waste of talent in British boxing. Check that video out. Anyway, it's been your guy Del Boy. Peace.